I'm not into podcasts.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again. What a hit!
Back of the net.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Not A Pundit Podcast. I'm Not A Pundit Killian Ginnity, and I'm delighted to be joined by Not A Pundit Conor Glennon.
How we going, boys?
And of course, journalist and author Robbie Redmond.
Hey lads, how's things?
Well, it could be better, I'll admit. It was kind of dire showing at the weekend, Rob. What did you make of possibly Stephen Kenny's last hurrah?
I think at this point now it's about putting the guy out of his misery, really. Like, it's like a mercy kill. Like, when I saw him being interviewed by Tony O'Donoghue after the match, like, he just looked like a broken man. I don't think I've ever seen a manager as disappointed. So on a human level, I think the best thing is to just call this quits. Don't put him back out in front of the media in a month's time. On a football level, it hasn't worked. There's no question. No one can stand here and give you a logical argument in favour of Stephen Kenny remaining as Republic of Ireland manager, regardless of how underwhelming or how poor the team is. There's just no reason that he has given to stick with him, because he promised that this would be the campaign when we'd see the best of these players, we'd see them kick on, and it just hasn't happened, and for lots of reasons, but the big one was really like his in-game management, and we saw that against Netherlands, not so much against France. We don't even count that one. Like, they were hammered. It was like in Space Jam, where the aliens are playing against like the cartoon characters. There's no comparison there. You're playing different sports. But against Netherlands, he did well for the first 20 minutes, or the team did well. He went ahead. Netherlands scored because Ireland lost the ball in the middle of the pitch, which shouldn't happen, but it does happen. But then at half-time, Ronald Koeman, the Dutch manager, switched his formation to play like 4-4-2, and Kenny didn't switch his formation, and he wasn't thinking quick enough on his feet, and this has happened in matches before, and it was just like a culmination of things. His in-game management, just the lack of quality players at his disposal, and then just that we're just easy to beat. Ireland are easy to beat, and we're not going to get any better under this guy. Maybe in time, his legacy, if you want to call it that, will be kind to him, because he blooded a lot of players. He's a decent guy. He believed in the best of the players, even though there wasn't a lot of evidence sometimes to back up what he was saying. But the manager of this team, it needs to kind of come to an end. There has to be a higher quality coach out there, and unfortunately it's not Stephen. So I wouldn't say it was grim or anything like that. It was kind of not surprised, really. Even when Ireland scored early, or like, the Dutch are probably going to score here, and then if they score one, they're going to score again. So it was just kind of a natural conclusion, a natural way to end what has been 3.5 years of just squabbling and this man trying to make things better. But ultimately, with the best will in the world, it's not going to happen.
I think you're right. Like, the interview, just going back to that after the game, it's one of those ones that, look, I've been a proponent of trying to get rid of Kenny for a good long while now, but that was, I know the RTE guys said it was uncomfortable, but I felt sorry for him. You know, he seems like a nice bloke, and it's one of those on a personal level. You're like, Jesus Christ, can you imagine having been thrown in front of the world's media, expecting that? I think you're right, Rob. It's the French game, I didn't think we stood a chance. Regardless, we were lucky to get away with conceding that little. We were getting absolutely pasted around the park. And look, I mean, nothing against Kenny, couldn't do anything about that. Like, regardless, we could have Pep Guardiola and it would have been the same thing. But the Holland one, I do feel that I must put an apology out to Stephen Kenny. I think you guys will remember I dropped an old text in the Not A Pundit WhatsApp group, and when Weghorst came on, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm so scared. I bet he'll score now," and he did. So, Stephen, I'm apologising in a public forum that I've put you out of a job, my friend. Killian, what was your vibe on the two games, I suppose?
Like, one of the things I kind of put a little bit of an ant in my picnic going into the Dutch game was Coleman's comments. Like, so we all saw the inferior one, but like, I don't know if other people kind of picked up on the comment he made about Stephen Kenny, which was talking about the classic games in the 80s and 90s between Ireland and Holland. He was like, But at that time, Ireland were really strong. They had good strikers, and they had a coach that was famous, Jack Charlton. That has changed, of course. And I was like, if an international manager is coming out and making that sort of backhanded comment, that like proper straight up bitchy comment in the media, they're not afraid of us. Like, we've gone from being whatever about Martin O'Neill's tenure, we as a whole, but like, we were a difficult team to break down. We were an ugly team to play.
People didn't want to play. People didn't want to come up against us. Put it that way.
Or watch us, kids. No one wanted to watch that.
But we could sneak in the odd result, and I think that's the difference here. Is that like, we're not sneaking in them results anymore. Like, we're not getting that scrappy, horrendous 1-0 win over Germany. That's just.
I think that comes from the top, though, because I think it's guys like Koeman. You may not love us the way he plays football, but like, he's a straight up killer of a person. Like, he is an absolute assassin. While like guys like Stephen Kenny, if you're like, it's like prison rules. You like, two men in a fight. Who are you picking? I am picking Kenny. And I think that comes across in the dressing room. Like,
I don't like to use the argument of kind of going, oh, well, he played at the top, so he knows how to play top football. But
that aside, just his vibe,
Yeah, but there does kind of seem to be, I don't know if it's from the players' end of it, that they just don't buy into him as much. But like, Rob, I think we had said this off air the other day, that like, anything Stephen Kenny had done well at Dundalk, he abandoned as soon as he got into the Ireland job.
Yeah, like, if you remember back to his Dundalk teams, and even before that, this guy had a habit, like a really great knack of building a great team spirit and making teams better. So he did the same with Derry, he did the same at Longford Town when he was like 30. Like, he's been successful at the levels he's managed that, but he never played a back three, and he never was this kind of like cargo cult Irish Pep Guardiola that he seemed to fit into that role. You hear people talking about how Ireland have to play, quote, good football or progressive football, and he bought into that element of it too much, I think, because like, it's not that the teams before him didn't play good or bad football. He just didn't really play any football because they weren't really coached like beforehand. Like, the stories of Aidan McGeady playing for Ireland and saying to the coach, like, when Martin O'Neill was the manager, like, what position am I playing in here? Like, I actually don't know. Like, so it was just a very much go out there, lads, and work hard. There was never any. So you can't really say that was good or bad football. It was just a load of lads just getting stuck in, basically. But with Kenny, he tried to bring this type of approach, and he always kind of overtalk the tactical approach. But yeah, the in-game stuff, his in-game management has kind of really been exposed. And I would have been always one of those people who were like, sure, some of these players have played professional football. What do they know? And a lot of them do know stuff, but maybe some of them are just, they don't really know. Like, I think you've seen with this, there are levels to it. So Ronald Koeman may not be a brilliant manager, but he also has somehow managed Barcelona. He's managed Valencia. He's managed Everton. He's managed Southampton. Like,
he's been around.
He's been around. He's been exposed to a higher level of opponents than Stephen Kenny would ever have been. I know he had Europa League campaigns, but Gus Poyet is another one, the Greece manager, and in both matches, Stephen Kenny was outwitted by them, and it doesn't take much. It didn't seem to take much. It was just a switch of formation. It was just targeting because we're kind of easy to play with. I think I said this before, Killian. It's like when you play Football Manager and you download a tactic and you couldn't be arsed making another tactic yourself. So you stick to that tactic. Like, Stephen Kenny was going into matches against Greece the same way he was going into matches against the Netherlands or Armenia, or maybe not so much France, but it just seems you have a one size fits all approach with that 3-4-1-2 or 3-5.
Which today you just can't do. You know,
yeah,
you need to adapt. Like,
yeah, that's it. And like, international football is not about good football. Like, it never has.
It's winning games. Yeah,
yeah, that's it. Rarely do you watch international football and go, that was a really entertaining, high quality match. Like, that's what the Champions League is for. International football is about. Yeah, you have to coach the players and be clever with it, but you also have to just be compact and find a way to win. And Ireland used to always, just under Kenny, just found ways to lose all the time. And I said this stat a few times, like the average ranking of the teams they've beaten is 121. And like, that's just not good enough. You can't, there's no way you can sit there and say, yeah, get this man and let's keep this guy around for another 2 years. And you can talk all day about the problems in Irish football, and they're there for everyone to see. They've been there for years. The association ran into the ground, like, but that's a completely different debate. I'm just talking about whether in the match, is he going to pick the right team? Is he going to pick the right tactics? And is he going to make the most of what he has there? And, like, he hasn't, unfortunately, and it's unfortunately as well. It looks like it's because he hasn't been exposed to top level management the way these other coaches have. And football is like a sport that no other sport has the levels in it that football has. And the jump from Stephen Kenny being under 21 manager to senior management is like, as someone told us, like going from being a tree to a scratch golfer. Like, it might look small, but it's absolutely massive. And that's what we've seen with Stephen, unfortunately. So for his own sake, I'd just like to see them just politely usher him out the door. And
that's that you were saying about the kind of 129th. Like, if someone said that to you in a pub quiz going, oh, what team is it? You'd think it was like St. Lucia or like Angola. You know, like you don't think it's, you know what I mean? Like, you don't think it's bloody Ireland. Like, I'm not saying we're Brazil by any means, but Christ.
Yeah, like,
but this is one of the things is that like our level of player isn't what we're used to. Like, we are coming to a stage where, as a country, we need to realize this: we don't have the 4 great generations that we had in a row. Like, can you imagine any other Ireland setup where James McLean gets 103 caps? Like, this is the first time a player of that level can reach level of caps. But it's not just him. Like, when Alan Brown is your most progressive bloody midfielder, like, that's not a good sign. When fucking Jeff Hendrick can't get a sniff at Newcastle and is just constantly being like sent out on random loans, but he's still included in squads despite not having a decent game since 2016. Like, I feel bad for Kenny that he kind of got he got it at such a wrong time. He got the bad end of one and not yet the good team of the next. Like, he's going to be, I think in years to come, he might be seen a little bit more favourably. Kind of going, oh, well, it was pre-Ferguson hitting the heights and it was post.
I'm almost glad it's pre-Ferguson though, because that guy does not need Stephen Kenny in his life. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds terrible. Like, from a youth perspective, he would have been fantastic for him. There's no debating what Kenny did at an under 21 level. Fantastic manager, but Evan Ferguson needs guidance. Like, he's coming from De Zerbi to Stephen Kenny. Like, that's just chalk and cheese. You know, if we're gonna anchor our team around this guy, we need, at least for a 3-4 year period, a manager that will be stable and be able to elevate him to that point. Any
manager that gives Doherty the number 10 shirt needs to be kept at like a 5 mile radius away from Evan Ferguson. Just stay away.
Should be in the Hague. Should be absolutely up for charges in the Hague. I as soon as I saw it, I was like, that looks like Matt Doherty, and I was like, that is Matt Doherty.
Matt Doherty with a mullet.
Yeah, I mean, that's for another day, but
like just as a quick aside, like, we have seen some terrible shirts down the years. Like, I don't think it's the most egregious, but like, it's not like there was a lack of forward players in that squad. Like, when we were starting with like a number 17 and like a 14 and all, it's like, somebody got to take the actual number 10 shirt, make it a striker, make it an attacking midfielder or somebody.
Can you imagine seeing Evan Ferguson? Can you imagine seeing Evan Ferguson on that pitch, not with number 10 and it's Matt Doherty? Like, what is it? What, like, if you bring your son or your nephew or your niece or whoever to a game and they go, oh, there's Evan Ferguson, you're like, no, that's Matt Doherty.
Like, that's a war crime. That has to be considered a war crime against the people of Ireland.
100%.
Ireland are famous for this. I remember one match though, Shane Duffy at number 7. Like, I think 7, I think Cantona or... Yeah, I don't think Shane Duffy.
Richard Dunn had 5 at one point. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
That made sense.
That's, I'm okay with that. But, like, it's like Steve Sidwell having number 9. Like, Shane Duffy number 7. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Or Gallas number 10.
Gallas number 10, like, the only thing is, if you're going to do that, you need to be a complete shithouse, and there's no better man to take a number 10 as a defender than William Gallas.
Yeah.
One that
Actually,
stood out for me massively was Samuel Eto'o at 5. That's almost the reverse. It's just like mother of God.
I don't know what it is with African strikers though. He's not the first or last. Like Asamoah Gyan used to wear number 3. Like, do you remember 2010 World Cup? He wore number 3.
That was a great team, by the way.
So good. Luis Suarez aside.
There was one that oh, go ahead there.
No, I was saying I'm not into all these stupid bloody. I sound like an outflip, but these squad numbers, like, it's too kind of American sportsy, like, because like the numbers are meant to mean something. Like number 2 is the right back, number 3 is the left back, number 10 is the creative midfielder or the striker, number 9 and so forth. But you can't just be picking number 52 like Bentner just because you like the number. Like, it means nothing. Like, it's not about you; it's about your position.
That wasn't because he liked the number. Apparently, that was because that was his wages.
That's even
52k a week.
52k because he had gone on loan to Birmingham and Sunderland and had done reasonably well, and he wanted to recreate himself and have a new fresh start at Arsenal, having been number 26.
I don't know what's worse, him wearing 52 or getting 52 grand a week. I don't like that. That's also a war crime. One I saw that was on that kind of on that vibe was, do you remember Liza Razou? When he was at Bayern Munich for a stretch, he wore 69, and the rationale behind wearing 69 is not what you might think. He was both 69 kg and 1.69 meters tall.
That is a man that found out them facts after getting the number. His missus was like, "What have you done?" "Oh, I'm just gonna go to the toilet," to come up with an excuse. "Oh, I'm 69 kilos."
Yeah.
The other one that I kind of liked as well was Buffon at one stage wore 88, and he says it's because it looks like 4 balls resting on each other, which I mean, I never thought I'd utter those words, but that is what the big man said.
Nothing to do with neo-Nazi connections or anything.
Nothing at all. No.
One thing I have to say though about big numbers
is Zamorano was 1 + 8 because Ronaldo took number 9. So
that's very good. That is a good one. I kind of like the shithousery of that. That's a bit like, okay, I've got you there. The one that Killian alerted me to a while ago was Edgar Davids wearing number 1 at Barnet. Now, that's just brutal.
Yeah.
And apparently that was I can't remember what podcast I listened to it on. It was some rival one that you should never listen to anyway. This is the only football podcast around. But it was with one of the senior players at Barnet at that time, and they all didn't buy into him. Like, they didn't particularly like him. It was kind of like, oh, it's cool that he's here, but like, what the hell? And then when he gave himself the number 1 jersey, apparently the goalkeeper went mad and just basically said, "Right, I'm checked out." Bear in mind, this is at the same time when Davids refused to go on away games and had gotten himself 3 red cards in the first 9 games of a season. Like,
Woodgate eat your heart out.
Yeah. Like,
one that I do think though, where I think numbers that are a bit rogue can be fine, is like Bruno at Newcastle rocking the number 39 because that's his dad's taxi number. That's cool. I like that. Or like Trent at Liverpool at 66. It's his first number. Cool. Fine with that. But, it doesn't have to be strictly 1 through 11. Like, I will say my favourite kind of way that numbers have been ran the Premier League ever there was one year United played City when they did the Busby Babes kits on both sides, and there was no names and it was 1 through 11. That was just amazing. Like, if we could go back to that, obviously from a marketing point of view and a commercial point of view, it's an impossibility, but as a purist, that was just sensational.
But there is a more extreme version of that, being how Argentina used to do all their World Cup ones, which I had to actually look up just to double check. They did it for the 78 World Cup, the 86 World Cup, and for the 90 World Cup, which was alphabetical.
Oh God!
So their goalkeeper 1 year was number 5, and I think he might have been number 9 or number 10 the next one. The only time that they switched it up was in 90 when Maradona got to have 10, and it was only made it for special players. But other than that, no matter your position, you could have been a striker with number 1. You could have been a goalkeeper.
That's the most South American thing I think I've ever heard in my life. That is just sensational. Sure,
actually, Rob, you might remember him because you have a stupid brain like I do. Jorge Campos, the goalkeeper that used to score all the goals, he used to be number 9.
Yeah, I actually seen.
Well, if you're scoring goals, if you're scoring goals, it's allowed.
I actually seen him play against Ireland for Mexico in a friendly when I was a kid.
No way.
He was tiny, like the smallest goalkeeper I've ever seen, and he had this real garish jersey. It was absolutely terrible. Yeah, this is donkeys years ago. Like
that's class, though.
Age. Yeah.
Who was the Ireland manager then?
Mick McCarthy. I'm not that old. I wasn't Jack Charlton. It was late 90s, sometime late 90s. Duff and Keegan were only young, but I remember watching them and I was like, even I was only a kid and I was like, I'm probably the same height as him. Like, he was about 5'6" or 5'7", maybe, even smaller probably.
Jesus,
but,
that's
mad.
And
he wore number 9. And I'm looking at his record here. He's 34 goals in his career.
He's nowhere going to Rodrigo Sene for Sao Paulo, 100 goals.
Yeah,
in his
or
career.
Chilaver. Remember him for Paraguay?
He got a hat-trick in one game, didn't he? I know he's the only goalkeeper to get a hat-trick. Yeah, it was 3 penalties, but I'm almost certain. Yeah.
That's wild.
But Rob, it's funny that you mentioned Robbie Keane and Duff because they're actually both been linked with potentially replacing Stephen Kenny.
Yeah. Not by me.
I don't know about you, Rob. But like everyone's chucking around Lee Carsley as the main name, and I'd love to see it, but like I don't know where I heard it today. It was one of the radio stations were talking about that. Like his 21s team could beat Ireland, so what is the point in him leaving? Like I don't know if you think it's the most legitimate, or do you think he'd even entertain it?
He'd definitely entertain it, just because apparently it is and has been an ambition of his, and he is like, I think he's 2nd generation Irish, so he feels Irish. It's not a Declan Rice situation, but also he's obviously an intelligent man and a highly regarded coach. And does he want this first senior job to be this, or should he kind of hang around and wait for Southgate to leave next year?
Do you think he can get that though? If he stays?
I think they might. I don't think they'll go for someone. He's won a champ. He's won the Euros, so straight away he's going to be in that conversation. Southgate was promoted from the 21s, and he never won a trophy. So on that mark, he's actually coached at Man City too. Like he is highly regarded. But
what age group at City did he have? Was the 18s or something? I
think it was some of the underage youth teams. So he is highly regarded. He was at Brentford too. He may have been at Birmingham, so he's been around and he's done the hard yards and coaching. If I was him, I don't know. Like, I'd have to take a big offer, and like he is probably 12 months away from being at least in the reckoning for the England job, and that is obviously one of the biggest jobs in world football. Like, he could be coaching Harry Kane and Bellingham and Rice and Grealish, so that could be a lot to give up to coach Will Keane and Adam Edis. So no disrespect to them. Like, let's be honest, like. But the other one is, do we want this guy? Because, like, is there anything it's another Stephen Kenny thing in a way. Like, he's coached at underage level. There's lots of great coaches who struggled to be a manager, like Michael Beale, the Rangers manager. From what I heard, he was like best coach ever. Some of the stuff that people are saying about him, like that Stephen Gerrard was saying. He was Stephen Gerrard's assistant at Rangers and at Villa. And people were saying, this guy is the brains of the operation. Gerrard was saying, it take me 10 years to be as good a coach as this fella.
That's a big statement, like.
Yeah. And now he's struggling. Like, he could be sacked by Rangers. Like, they're knocked out, hammered in the Champions League, hammered by Celtic, and that could be it. So the next step, as you said, is the big one. So I don't know. If I was the FAI, would I be taking a risk on him? But also, from his point of view, I don't know if we're taking a risk on the FAI. So
Kill, what are you saying? What are you saying on Carsley?
I think it's going to come down to money. Because, like, the big thing for Ireland is we can't even afford to sack Kenny. So I think Carsley is within our price range if you can convince him. Because he's not going to be on big boss wages. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the England job. I think he's going to be discussed. But if you look at the reasons why Southgate got the England job, England was in a very, very different place. It was post-Hodgson. He was only an interim coach who did well and got the job. He was pure Ollie. And
played for England, crucially.
And had managed in the Premier League. Like, this is the other thing about it. So, like, he had a not as great...
unsuccessfully managed in the Premier League.
But more importantly, he also spent time at the head of the FA. He was on the big boys table there. And I think
so he greased the old palms to yeah.
Well, I
don't
would
know.
say though, Killian, is apparently the FA, the reports are that they're going to reject any approach from the FAI for him. So,
100%. Like
thoughts.
it'll be all on the Carsley side, where like if he wants to make the move, like England can get another under-21s coach. Did it want to? No, because I think the way they see it very much now is they'll only switch it by generation. So for as long as there's a 19-year-old in that squad, they'll want to keep him and the coach together until it's 21. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Carsley, the deal that England do with Carsley is, say, Eddie Howe is the assistant manager to Jason Tindall for the England job, that Carsley is brought in as part of the coaching staff, as part of the continuity. I could see that happening a lot more realistically than I could see Carsley getting the top job. Conor, but one of the only things I would love to see about Carsley coming in is maybe he might bring some of the second gen or third gen Irish English over to us.
It'd be nice to finally do the dirty on the old enemy, I suppose. But I mean, the ones that scream to mind straight away is Delap's kid. I know he's kind of in the 21s and he's doing great. He'd be a tasty one for us. But I mean, at the same time, as petty as I am and as much as I'd love to see that, I kind of would just love to bring in a manager that can cultivate what's there and what's coming up. For me, these kids are young guys, 21 years old. I know you can say, they can change their mind. They've made their decision. That's the progression point they want. I think leave them in that system and bring someone in that will cultivate ours. I mean, if we think about it, guys, like outside Carsley, say he's off the table. In my head, the names and that I've seen in the press as well, I suppose, is you've got Keane, which we can delve into in a minute. You've got Rafa, which I'd absolutely adore, but that's with my black and white Newcastle lenses on. I suppose you've got your man at Ipswich, McKenna, and outside of that, you're kind of restricted to actually I forget his name. He's on the coaching ticket. He was on Kenny's coaching ticket already. As well
John O'Shea.
I think they're the names, and I'd be interested to see your guys' take on who you'd pick here. I think Rafa's unachievable at the best of times, especially since he's taken the Celta Vigo job. Keno, I think he'd want it, but he's pretty cushy in Sky, and I think he'd only do it if he could keep the Sky gig. And I don't know enough about McKenna. What would your opinion be, guys?
I probably shouldn't jump straight to the end, but Rafa Benitez would be brilliant. Someone like that, someone who has coached at a high level, who commands respect, who can deal with the media, not like Stephen would. It's not that he's not a good communicator. I say this as I'm stuttering here. He is a good communicator, but he's just too open. I just don't think. Like, I remember first time I went to chat to Mick McCarthy, and he stands up and he shakes your hand, and he has that presence that I just don't think that Stephen kind of ever really had. Martin O'Neill was very prickly and real, just like dour, but he still had that aura of he's won European Cups as a player, and this stuff does matter. And Rafa would have that, he's a Champions League winner. The guy was Real Madrid manager, Liverpool manager, great job at Newcastle. Someone like that would be ideal because, he's an older manager as well. He's mid-60s. He's probably past his best, but doesn't mean he wouldn't be good enough for us, and he makes players better, and he's tactically astute. He won't be caught out, and there won't be any nonsense talk of we're going to play great football because it's just going to be about winning. But he's unattainable. Think of someone like Kieran McKenna, who's probably too early in his journey, he's 37. He's in his first job in management. You kind of just want to let him.
Ipswich have put so much money behind him. I don't know why he'd do it.
Yeah, let him be. Let him figure out himself. Let him cook, as they say. Roy Keane is one that people laugh at, and I found myself convincing myself a little bit more about this. Keane is not the kind of dinosaur that people think he is. It's just that he doesn't speak about the game in a modern way, the way Kieran McKenna might, or Brendan Rodgers, or any of these newer, younger coaches. But Keane would definitely need an elite level assistant manager who can kind of put the framework on the team, and Keane is kind of like the figurehead. So I'd want to hear what Roy would bring to the table. What's your package going to be like? So I wouldn't rule it out, just but given the status the guy has, and then after that it will be nearly a case of like, can we headhunt someone? Can we go out? Like, because I remember when Staunton was sacked, and it was like, who are we going to get in here? And it was like Brian Robson and all these guys linked to the job, Gary Megson probably, or something like that. Any type of middle-aged British manager that was floating around at the time. And he went off, and the FAI got, I think, Ray Houghton and two other guys to recruit someone. And like 3 months later, they come back with Trapattoni. You're like, Trapattoni, like one of the most successful managers ever. And people like laugh at him, but the guy did a really good job as Ireland manager. So, like,
crucially though,
maybe that's
FAI
the answer.
weren't paying for him.
That's the key point, Killian, as you said, and that would be the Rafa situation. So unless they're going to go cap in hand out to some benefactor who's going to back them, which they won't, because you can't even get a sponsor. So,
yeah, fair.
Like, let's be honest. So it might have to be someone like a Football Manager, Killian, or kind of like you're going to type in attributes. What do you want? Like tactical, astute, like good at dealing with the media, patient, because it's going to be tough. Like, this is what we might need. But just the Brighton example for anyone who's despairing, thinking there's no one who's going to manage this team. We're never going to get to another tournament. Like, no one in the world. Like, actually, De Zerbi was such a mad show for Brighton that Graham Souness accused him of Googling Brighton and kind of doing a cheat sheet. And people obviously thought it was lunacy, but at the same time, it was that much of a left field appointment that he could come out with that nonsense. So there is someone out there. There's someone out there for everyone, Killian.
Now, one thing that would be very Football Manager, but it shouldn't be discounted because we've seen it in the, I think it was the Championship, but maybe the Premier League when they were last there, is do we look at trying to get a club manager that's willing to do an international job at the same time? Go back to
Brendan
like
Rodgers.
John Giles. He would have the ego to do it. Like the last time we saw it in the kind of upper echelons of English football was Leonard Slutsky at Hull and Russia. He was a very kind of well-regarded Russian coach.
Gus Hiddink as well.
Hiddink did it with multiple teams actually, often on interim basis. But I'm just kind of looking here at the odds online. Carsley 11-4, Neil Lennon 11-2 is disgustingly low.
No shot, not happening.
Chris Hughton 7-1, doing a decent job at Ghana, but no.
Yeah.
Roy Keane 10-1, but I believe if I remember listening to an old interview recently again, that he said he's not sure if the international games for him, that it's more that he likes to be on the ground with them as a manager.
But I think I saw that interview as well, and that's what kind of made me go, he mightn't do it. But I think, Rob, you made a point before that, like, it allows him to watch any game he wants any day of the week and still be in management, so he can still be a pundit, be a technical advisor if he wants. He can still just learn the game, watch the game, and be a part of the game. It makes sense on paper. I just don't know. The FAI is an old boys club, and I can't see them admitting defeat to the point where they hire him as manager. I think assistant was as far as they were going to go.
Why would he want to be around the players? He hates the players. He hates footballers. He absolutely detests them with all his strength. Like, how many players has he praised over the last few years? Billy Gilmore's one. Obviously Man City. And that's about it. Like, I think he praised Mason Mount before. He was even giving Declan Rice stick on telly. Like, so 10 days of these players is perfect for him. He has 2 days of being okay around him, 2 days absolutely hating him. Like, and then he'll just get his coach to manage them, and then he can just do the press. And he's great. He's the best communicator out there, probably.
I think if Ireland are going to be Ireland, it's going to be someone that we do not expect. Like Killian, who's like, say, 10th on that list?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna rattle through the list. You give me quick fire reactions
because it's gonna be someone we don't want or expect.
The next one has been halved. Their odds have been halved in the last day. So there were 22-1. Now they're 11-1. Is Steve Bruce?
No, absolutely not. Sorry, kid.
No, he's a nice man, but no.
Also on 11-1 is Sam Allardyce.
No.
12-1.
I'm not completely no with the Big Sam. I kind of like
Big
Sam. I'm saying no, but I wouldn't hate it.
I think money wise, it's a no. 12-1 John O'Shea, 14-1 Damien Duff. What's the
Duffer?
point?
I don't think is ready.
No, he's not ready.
But I don't count him out down the road.
20-1, Robbie Keane, Keith Andrews, and Willie Sagnol.
Willie Sagnol?
Currently Georgia manager, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
they're doing
no,
okay.
he's been Bordeaux manager. He was, I think, maybe Bayern Munich 2 or under 21s coach when he started out, and then
that's the kind of one I bet you we end up with.
I think so.
He's been Georgia managers, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. So like, he's around.
It's definitely someone like that. I agree with you, Conor. And another thing is to keep in mind who is actually making this decision. So it used to be Big John Delaney. God knows what was behind this decision making. I can speak freely now. You probably won't sue me. Or you might have to cut that out. Killian. I'm joking. The other one, now at the moment, is the two that are running it out are both English. So it's Jonathan Hill, who used to work in the FA in England, and Mark Carnham, I probably pronounced that wrong, but he is the director of football. So they're both English, and Mark Carnham, and that might change the perspective
of it, I suppose.
Yeah, like they're going to probably have connections in the FA. I think that's why Carsley appeals to them as their first choice, because he's a bit like them, under the radar, skilled in British football, and just maybe that connection's a bit easier to make. It won't be Big Mick McCarthy again anyway, let's put it that way. It might be someone that kind of under the radar, maybe a Willie Sagnol, but someone like probably Carsley. I can see why he's their first choice.
Big Mick is 25-1.
I think Big Mick could be interim. If they get rid of Kenny and they're still on the hunt, they need someone to steady the ship. I could see him doing those games up until March. But like, you know, aside
see him
from that,
doing them how Kenny got in. If that happens,
say he's sick.
Yeah.
Like he's like, this fucking nonsense. Sorry, the arrangement that happened there. Like when he was manager the second time, Ireland drew away. We lost like to Switzerland. We drew with them at home. Like Kenny wasn't getting these results, and this is me who was crying out for Kenny at the time. So maybe we shouldn't discount the old dinosaurs. Maybe we were too quick to kind of. Maybe after 1,000 games of management, he's learned something. I don't know.
Speaking of dinosaurs, though, 25-1, Tony Pulis.
No.
As much as I appreciate the impeccable skill of Stoke on a Tuesday night, I don't think that's a viable one.
Is this what we think of ourselves as a nation? Like, this is all we can get. Washed up, long ball dinosaur managers who I just said, let's not rule them out, from 2012 and 2013, when you're at their peak. Is that it? Like, we are failed as a nation, if that's all we can think of. But also, I probably can see the logic behind it. Like, who else actually is there? So
Big Sam, I'd love the experience, but like, let's be real. If we got Big Sam, he's not here in 3 years. But that's one question I do want to ask you guys. Say we even got Lee Carsley, what kind of contract length do you give him?
Campaign 2 years. Sorry, a Nations League, because that is so important to Ireland. That I don't think maybe Kenny did realise it, but I don't know if fans realise it. And a qualification campaign, that would be for me.
I would do the same, but I'd have an inbuilt option to activate, because I reckon if he was to do a good job, that he could be snapped up.
Yeah, so you'd have a kind of a, if you qualify, you run us through.
If you hit this, it automatically renews, so that before his stock rises, you kind of already have an inbuilt.
To do that though, you'd need serious money, because if you're potentially locking someone in on a 2-year contract that turns into 4.
Like you can do, and I've seen clubs do it anyway for like promotion, like a promotion clause. It's like, yeah, we'll activate this, but you go up 25%.
Okay,
like if this is you kind of do it that way, because if we were to qualify, well, then suddenly that's more money for the FAI, and you could justify giving the extra 25% then, and then you take it on the chin if you have to kind of get rid of them after that. There's just 2 names left on the list, and I think the 2 most interesting ones. One we mentioned already, 22-1, Anthony Barry, but the one that I would love, and I think he's about the right age, 22-1, Ralph Hasenhüttl.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I think it'd be class. Like, right profile. He's used to playing decent football with young players. He did a better job at Southampton than
people give him credit for it.
Yeah, because like, look at the mess that they went to instantly after him. Like, I know they had the second coming of Jesus Nathan Jones, but like, still.
What are you saying, Rob?
But throw him in the mix, definitely. Like he's another kind of. He's like I need to call him the Klopp of the Alps or some stupid nickname. Some absolute nonsense nickname because he likes pressing. Essentially, he's a high pressing coach. I don't think he was too fond of Obafemi. Apparently, clashed a bit Obafemi at Southampton, one of our better players, I suppose. But yeah, he would be, if the profile I suppose you're looking at, Killian, definitely like operate at the top level of the game, out of work, so there's no chance of to pay any compensation. So yeah, I wouldn't be against that. The one I would have loved is too late now is Bielsa. Like that's one. Like I'd be signing up
Jesus,
for
that would have been
ticket.
yeah.
Imagine Marcelo Bielsa on a green bucket. Just getting Jeff Hendrick to be pinging balls all around the pitch. That would have been. If you can make Calvin Phillips into a £60 million player for Man City, God knows what you do to our lads. So the dream died when he went to Uruguay.
Well, we can only live and hope and dream. We know that there is a presser coming up with both Jonathan Hill and the director of football, so it'll be interesting to see what comments they make.
It can't be any more uncomfortable than Kenny's interview, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah,
well, the rumor going around is that they've said that they don't want a zombie manager for the next round. So,
and i.e., we need to sell tickets for this. It's a double header, so I think you have to buy tickets for Greece in October and New Zealand in November. Like
that's not great.
So, how do you get 50,000 people or 40,000 people plus into the stadium? Not that they've completely turned on Kenny, but just give the punters, throw them a bit of raw meat, and that's what it feels like. So, yeah, I think he's not long for us, I don't think.
But one manager that is kind of facing a criticism that we did mention earlier is Southgate, Conor, for his decision to stand by both Harry Maguire and Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, it's look, it's a weird one, and I don't want to be the Maguire basher. He's got enough people bashing him around the place. Look, we all know he shouldn't be in that team. I understand Southgate's mentality of playing the players he knows and an environment around a team. That's why I understand the Henderson one. I will stand behind. He's a vice captain. Yes, he may be in Saudi, but I think he's been a Liverpool captain. He's lifted the Champions League. I think that's fine. But the Maguire piece, it's getting unfair at this point. It's just like put him out to pasture, like let him focus on his club football, try rescue his career, and we'll see you down the road, pal. But like if you're sitting on that bench in a friendly against Scotland and you're not getting played, you're just going, do I have a single hope in hell of even getting on this pitch ever under Southgate? I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, like he brought him on. I knocked on the second half and I had it on the background. They brought him on, and you're like, oh god, like this is like something Ireland would do. Like give someone a few minutes because they're not playing at club level. So give him a half, like to get a bit of football into his legs because he probably won't play. You know, he have a couple of injuries. He might be in a Carabao Cup or something. But I actually just felt sorry for him. I just thought this isn't wrong. This is wrong. Like he didn't go through his whole life to be a laughing stock like this.
This is what I mean. Like on a personal level, it's fucking bleak,
Yeah, and like he isn't elite level. He was at fault. They were actually showing it on Virgin Media. Damien Delaney was showing how he's at fault. He drops off. That's just his natural way to drop off. So at a certain point, you like to say, okay, yeah, he's been loyal to you, but you've been loyal to him. And Maguire has never really let him down. He's performed better for England than he ever did for Man United. But
especially in tournaments, to be fair.
Yeah, but the team has moved on so much now. Like they had, for example, the 2018 World Cup squad, they had Phil Jones in the squad. That's the depth of talent that England had then. Now, look at that team. It's quality everywhere, every single position. And do you really need him or Henderson? Henderson, I'm never a fan of Henderson. Never thought he was a great player. It's interesting now to watch people kind of turn on him. I just wouldn't have either of them, and particularly not Maguire, because it just becomes a distraction. And then the other way, you're like, fair play to you, say, okay, for kind of defending him. But
see, that's the other thing. It's like I kind of respect it,
Yeah, you're like, I respect you for defending him, but I'm questioning your management by playing him. So, yeah, and Maguire had the chance to go United. Obviously, he didn't want to give up that money that he wanted from United, which he's perfectly entitled to do, but this ultimately has caused situations like this. So it just, Maguire's become a distraction. And I do feel sorry for him on a human level because Man United just never, ever, ever should have paid that money for him. And then on top of that, never should have made him captain. And now he just has a big target on its back, and he's a meme effectively.
But
so
one of the memes I did see is his last 2 goals are against Sevilla and Scotland. Like it's one of those. I think, like I said, I don't know about you, Kill, but bring you in on this in a sec, but it's just give the dude a break, you know.
I think his inclusion says more about Southgate than it does him. I think it shows Southgate as a man out of ideas, that he was blessed at the timing that he went in, that England's stock was so low. He got a little bit of positivity around, had a decent and obvious group of players to bring through at the time, and he's brought in a few of the younger ones as well now. But it's always been built around that Euro squad. Like, no matter how bad the players have gotten, he's stuck by them, rightly or wrongly, and I think it's proving now wrongly. Like, they're getting results off the back of the skill of the likes of Bellingham, or like, it's how good these other players are what's balancing out how bad the decisions are by Southgate.
He is another Stephen Kenny. Sorry, Killian.
Yeah, no, I think he this is like going to be his either. Obviously, they're going to qualify, so he'll get to the tournament. But I think after that, he's done.
Well, like if with the caliber of players they have, a final is a minimum. You know,
semi-final. I'll give him a semi.
Yes, a semi-final. But I mean, you know, obviously it's the players on the pitch at the end of the day. But if he doesn't win something with that team, there is the mark of failure there. You know,
especially when you see around Europe how badly underperforming most of the other teams are. Like, Belgium have never been able to get it together. Germany are
in free fall,
gone.
Yeah.
Italy, like, Mancini's gone, so like I haven't really got to see what the new coach is like.
Spalletti is a genius level coach, and he won the Serie A with Napoli, so they need to improve. But in talent wise in their squad, like, it's England every day of the week. Like, they're
100%. France are their only real rivals there in Europe, you know.
And they have like a civil servant managing them. And that's what, like, it's a Stephen Kenny thing, not to call Stephen Kenny still a servant, but his in-game managing. Like, Southgate's an intelligent guy without any question, and he does speak well, and he is likeable, but his in-game management I've always found to be just really bad, because it gets exposed in certain matches. Like, maybe it's not so much the match last year against France, but the Euro 2020 final in 2021, they're winning 1-0 at home, and they lost it to Italy. Like, how can you lose that match? Like, or the 3 years before that, in the 2018 World Cup semi-finals, they're beating Croatia, who are out on their feet. They played like extra time, 2 matches in a row, and they found a way to lose it. It's so, they have an elite level squad, but they do not have an elite level kind of tactician or in-game manager. The next thing I'm watching England, watch yourself, okay, he's always chatting to your man Steve Holland. He's the coach at Chelsea. I think he's like kind of the brains of it, really.
But like, a lot of the talk around the team is that, like, he's brought that team. Like, we've all heard there used to be a Chelsea table, a United table, Liverpool table. They're all a cohesive unit, and like, you can see they're all genuine pals now. You see it when they play each other at club level. But like, that doesn't keep you in a job. Like, fair play to you, you've cultivated a group, but that group, you've broken through that barrier. Someone else can take it from there. You know, that can't be. It's definitely a legacy you'll have, but that can't keep you in a job going for another 2, 3, 4 tournaments.
I think it says a lot when you think of, if he was to go, that like, you don't consider him going to any club. Like, he's never linked to any club job. Like, he has the bang of taking an FA job.
Oh, he'll just go straight head of the Premier League or something. Yeah, it'll be some borderline politician job, like
some administration job, civil service job.
yeah.
Like,
but he'll be on a committee. A committee man.
I'd say he loves a committee.
But I think we should move away from kind of like the dregs of football that is, and kind of look ahead to the Premier League, Rob. Is there any of the games that you're kind of looking forward to? Because I know, Premier League being back means fantasy is back. So
I haven't actually had a chance.
What games should we be looking at?
we should be. Well, the one I'm looking forward to is wrong. The one I'm going to 100% definitely watch is Man United v Brighton, and it'll be more misery for me because I think Brighton will absolutely. Well, maybe they won't, but if Big Evan Ferguson's back, they might run amok against United. For fantasy, the ones that we're looking at is like Liverpool away to Wolves. Definitely, like you're looking at maybe Salah, maybe bring Salah in there if you can, because he is actually in good form, or even Jota, and then Tottenham at home to Sheffield United. So Tottenham have like Maddison. He didn't really get to play for England over the break. Maddison's absolutely flying. So that'd be another one I'll be targeting. One I'd be avoiding is Everton v Arsenal on Sunday. So at Goodison Park, I'll get the exact record now in a minute, but I think Arsenal have lost there for the last like couple of years. So I think Everton could do them again, basically.
Well, they're in so much trouble as well, Everton, that like what's that saying? There's nothing more dangerous than a man that's got nothing to lose. Like that's Everton right now. Like
So in the last, they've won 1, 2, 3, 4. Arsenal last beat them away from home in 2020. Sorry, this is not very good podcasting, Killian. But there's a stat here at the end of it. It's like 2018, basically.
Wow.
That's a long stretch. That's a really long stretch. Like, I mean, the one for me, just as a Newcastle fan, I'm curious as to the team we'll put out against Brentford.
That's going to be a really exciting tie, like tactically. Like Thomas Frank is always entertaining, but like Eddie Howe is putting together a good side. I hate to say.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, do we have one eye on Milan on Tuesday? As a Newcastle fan, I never thought I'd ever say that again. But yeah, like I think Newcastle Brentford will be a great game. I think the only for me as well, I think you're right with United versus Brighton. That will be very good. I also think the West Ham versus City game could be very good. I'd be interested, Rob. What are you saying there? Do we think Haaland's got 3 goals in him, or is that a 1-0 win? Get lucky to get out of there.
I don't know. That'd be one I'd be wary of captaining him in, because West Ham are just like, they're at peak Moisey at the moment. Like they're grinding out results with like 2% possession, and they're gonna have a lot. Like they might have lads who, like, I don't think Kurt Zuma, for example, was on international duty, so Jared Bowen wasn't, Mikel Antonio wasn't, so they'll be fresh and ready to go. So that would be one I'd be giving a stare to. So it kind of is testing your mettle, really, because the default option is always just Captain Haaland. But if there was a week not to, and you're brave, you might be rewarded by avoiding that one. Watch, you'll score 5 goals now.
So you're telling me captain is going to be Ferguson this week? You're going all the chips in, full all in.
I'd say if you had him, you'd be going for Salah. Definitely.
Okay.
And for that Arsenal one, that stat that I basically made a mess of, it's October 2017. 6 years since Arsenal won at Goodison Park. So they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4 of the last 5. So I don't know. I'd be avoiding that one too.
I think I might have to take a trip down the bookies on that one.
I'm looking forward to just not for fantasy, but just for watching the games down at the bottom end of the table. Like good relegation dogfights in Forest and Burnley and Bournemouth and Chelsea. Like I think it's going to be an interesting relegation fight there.
Yeah, Forest and Burnley. Like it'll be interesting to see. Will Burnley adjust their football? They seem to be playing the same style all season. I don't think Company's going to relent on that. I think he's going to ride it until it works or he gets sacked. But
Ireland vibes off that, I think. A bit of
big
we're
time.
Play our football. I'm like, that's nice. You're lost 5-0.
yeah. It goes. That's the thing. It's like I think Brian Kerr was saying. You know, you can have all the possession you want if your 2 centre backs are passing to each other, but you know, it's winning games that matter.
But the only thing I'd say in Company's defence, though, is all he needs is results against the smaller teams. And they've had not a great run so far this season. Like, they've been given a couple of really big games. Whereas I think if they can get a solid result against Forest, get results against the likes of Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, if they can get decent results, then you can start to... If they're not getting them there, then you can start to criticise them. But
yeah,
like, if you can play good football and survive in your first season up, that's a major coup for Burnley.
Yeah, another one I target. Last one would be Fulham Luton. So I'd get like probably if you need them, Fulham's goalkeeper, because I think Luton will be the team to target in fantasy this season. There's always one team every year that you're like, all right, they're playing away from home. You might get 6 points for a clean sheet there because I think they'll struggle. So that might be another one if you have a couple of transfers, but it wouldn't be like a priority or anything like that.
I love that you think I have a couple of transfers left. I know that's the way to do it, but I love that you think I have them.
Well, gents, aside from the football as we're coming to the end, is there anything you are looking forward to or going to keep an eye on this weekend?
Well, I tell you, I've been waiting weeks for it at this point. Welcome to Wrexham Season 2 is, at the time of recording, just out today. And I cannot wait to get all into that. I think it's been one of the best stories in football as a kind of football purist for a very long time. So I'll definitely be getting into that. I think a second one, little bit more concentration needed, is the All or Nothing Germany in Qatar. I will warn you boys that it's completely in German, so you'll need those subtitles on unless your German skills are a bit better than mine. And you'll get a window into Hansi Flick's old world, but they're definitely two for me.
Rob?
I am still halfway through Wrexham. Welcome to Wrexham Season 1. I used to be great at watching all these shows, but I just somewhere along the line, like another one that was recommended was like Where Eagles Dare, this Crystal Palace documentary on Amazon Prime.
Very good.
It's brilliant, but
Yeah.
I haven't watched it since June, so I have to go back on that. I'm just looking forward to actually just getting not being miserable watching football. Like when Man United lose, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. They won the treble when I was a kid. That's all that matters.
That'll do.
Now I'm
yeah.
like, we're watching Ireland. It's just can't, like another tournament gone. So just actually watching football. Football is passed to each other. That'll be nice for a change. That's really harsh, actually. Sorry.
I'm just hoping for a little bit of sun, or not even sun, just a little bit of dry weather so we can get stuff done around the house. And I've a podcast that I'm re-listening to, which is American Scandal on Waco, which
Great listening.
I highly recommend. Highly recommend. But gentlemen, episode 1, we've made it. Thank you very much for joining me on this evening, and thanks very much to our listeners. I've been Killian Ginnity, Not A Pundit. Thank you very much, Not A Pundit, Conor Glennon.
Thanks a million, boys. Great as always.
And thank you very much, journalist and author, providing the credibility, Robbie Redmond.
Thanks. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me, Killian. Thank you.
Subscribe, like, leave us a review if you wouldn't mind, and we'll chat to you next week.
Chat soon.
I'm not into podcasts.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again.
What a hit! Back of the net.